What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Now, before we get into today's Entitled Parent stories, I've got a very special announcement to tell you all. Some of you might have seen this already, but I have now released my very own face mask. With many countries around the world now actively encouraging the use of cloth face masks, I thought it'd be a great idea to offer you guys a custom piece that we can all wear. So here it is. As you can see, you've got me and all of you guys in our long-standing battle against Karen, aka Entitlement. I think it's a pretty dope piece of artwork, and I hope you guys do too. Now, in order to raise some money for a good cause, all profits that are made on these face masks will be donated to charity. And as part of the Match a Mask charity campaign, for every mask purchase up until the 15th of May, we will be donating another to a professional worker on the front line. So by buying one of these face masks, you are not only ensuring that you and others around you are kept safe, but you are also helping out the people who need it the most, the medical professionals that work with this virus every single day. Overall, I'm just super excited to be able to offer this to you guys. Let's try and raise as much money as we can in the fight against this pandemic. Now, the link to the face mask will be in the pinned comment, the description, and hopefully behind the I button right now as well. Down in the description, I will also leave some more information about the Match a Mask charity campaign if you want to do a little bit more research. With that all being said, let's now get into the Entitled Parent stories. How an old rain jacket became my defense against an entitled mother. This happened about 2 months ago before all this COVID-19 lockdown. To give some more preface, a long time ago I got an old hand-me-down jacket from my uncle who happened to work in the prison system. This jacket happened to have a DOJ Federal Bureau of Prisons logo on it. I've worn it many times and it's always garnered some interesting reactions from people. Now, I just so happened to be wearing this jacket for our encounter with the entitled mum. Now onto the story. Me and my fiance went out to grab a bite to eat on a Saturday evening. As we ordered and sat at our table, we decided to play with our Nintendo Switch, which apparently is entitled mum bait, while we waited for our food. After a few minutes, I had to go and use the bathroom. About a few minutes later, after I left, according to my fiance, some lady, the entitled mum of this story, came up to our table and had her child, the entitled kid, sit down in my chair, which prompted this exchange. "Excuse me, do you mind watching my kid? There's no kids play area here, and I saw that you had a Switch for him to play. What games do you have on your Switch? Do you have Fortnite?" The entitled mum then starts to walk away. "Have fun." My fiance puts the Switch inside her bag. Mum, I'm sorry, but I didn't agree to watch your kid. He's your responsibility. Also, I don't trust people I don't know with my Switch." "But my mum said I can play with your Switch." The entitled mum then says to my fiance, "Hey now, don't be like that. It's hard being a single mum. Plus, you obviously have the means to entertain my child, so why not help me out? Like I said, I'm not responsible for your child. I didn't even invite him to sit here. Please leave." "Now, you listen to me. I know the owner here. I will have you thrown out if you don't watch my child." As the entitled mum is yelling this, I happen to be walking out of the bathroom towards the table where my fiance was. Now, as I'm walking up, the entitled mum sees me coming and notices the DOJ logo on my jacket. A smirk crossed her face as I got to the table. She says to me, "Now you look like someone in law enforcement. This little rude lady here is refusing to give my angel her Switch to play with after she promised to do so." I cut her off with a stern voice. "Is there a reason you're harassing my fiance and trying to take the Switch I bought for her?" I watched as the entitled mum's smirk gave way to a look that said, "Oh snap." She quickly grabbed her child and made a beeline to her table. The entitled mum didn't bother us afterwards, outside of a few stolen glances. We got our food, ate it, and left after finishing our meal. I was glad I picked that day to wear my uncle's old raincoat. Alright, so for those of you outside of America, I just looked up what DOJ stands for. It's Department of Justice. I probably should have known that. But anyway, I guess the moral of this story is, if you want a real-life Karen repellent, if you want to avoid all entitled people you come across, well, just put on some uniform and that will trick them into not messing with you. I guess if you dress like law enforcement and act like law enforcement, an entitled person is probably gonna think you're law enforcement and leave you alone. Now moving on to our next story. Entitled grandmother thinks it's okay to take my items without my permission. Back when I was a freshman in high school, my grandmother thought that it would be a good idea to take my belongings without informing me while I was at school. To elaborate, I had a small table with cubbyholes in it that I kept belongings in that were important to me. I had autographs, signed art, and awards I'd earned over the years in those cubbyholes. house. I came home from school to go to my room, only to see that the table had been replaced with an enormous dresser. Confused and concerned for my belongings, I went to confront my grandmother about where everything went. This was the conversation as follows. Hey, Grandma, what happened to my table in my room?
Oh, I took it out and put it on the porch for a place to put my shoes. I hope you don't mind, OP.
I thought she was joking because why the F would anyone use a table as a shoe rack? We already had several by the front door and I didn't think she was serious, but I went out on the porch and sure enough, there it was. Decorated with shoes, potted plants, and empty mason jars. I then come back inside to ask where my belongings were and what she did with them. If you wanted my table, you could have asked when I got home. Also, where's my stuff that was in it? At this point, my entitled grandmother starts to get defensive and tries to avoid my questioning.
I wasn't going to wait for you all day to come home. I have a lot of work to do and you should feel grateful that I replaced your table with a desk.
Yep, she thought that the dresser that she got me was a desk. I looked at her, still trying to decide if she was serious or not, and she was. I tried to explain to her that a desk has legroom and doesn't have the drawer that a dresser has for you to put clothes in. She wasn't hearing it. However, I wasn't either and continued to ask her where my belongings were until she finally gave in and told me.
Why do you care so much about those things? It was only several awards and other rubbish. I had to do something with them in order to move the table, so I put them in a box while you were at school and moved them to storage.
What the F? You took my stuff and put it in a box without telling me?
Don't use that type of language in my house, OP. I'm going to smack the head out of you if you use it again.
I don't give an F if you smack me. You took my stuff without even letting me look through the box to see if I wanted to keep anything? Not long after my grandmother and I started arguing, my grandfather comes into the room after hearing us argue outside. He had been on the phone with a client of his, and as soon as the client hung up, he came in to see what was going on. OP and EG, what are you arguing about this time? For context, my grandmother and I never got along well, and this only tipped that boat even more into the water. She took my table and stuff that was inside it to use as a dang shoe rack when she already has 3 of them by the front door. Now OP, you shouldn't talk to your grandma like that. I've noticed how disrespectful you've been getting around the house towards her, and you need to straighten up your act. Upon hearing this, my entitled grandma tries to play the victim card and starts tearing up, voice cracking and everything.
OP, why are you always so angry at me? Have I not done enough for you already? What did I do to deserve this kind of treatment from you? Please tell me.
Oh, don't pull that stuff with me, EG. You've been doing it every time I catch you doing something trashy, just so you don't have to take responsibility. My granddad gets furious at this point with me. He disregards the fact that his wife had stolen my belongings and starts going off at me. OP, look at what you've done. You need to learn to respect your elders. You've always been a good granddaughter, but this is unacceptable. I can't believe how you're displaying yourself right now. This is my household and you are only 15. Yeah, 15 or not, she stole stuff that was important to me. How would you feel if I went into your room, took your clothes and stuff out of it, stuck it in a box while you were out of town, and told you that I put it in a storage room and replaced your furniture with something else that served no use to you?
Well, I would feel grateful that someone would take their time to think of me and spend money on me.
See, Grandma is thankful for things in her life. Why can't you be OP? You need to learn how to be thankful for what others have done for you in life, otherwise you won't get anywhere. What do you think your boss would say if you spoke like this to him? I think he'd have some common sense to know that you shouldn't steal other people's stuff, even if they aren't in the room. I had ended up storming off and could hear my grandparents talking about how rude I was. The storage area wasn't too far from my house, only down the road, so I walked there the next day and couldn't find the box my grandmother was talking about. To this day, every time I try to go and see if I can find the box, I believe that my entitled grandmother threw it away, and then tried to come up with something that would get me to stop questioning her. Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that OP, that is exactly what happened. I think that's pretty obvious, right? She just made an excuse to try and look good for her husband. If I were you, I would just do the same thing though. Get your own piece of furniture, replace it, and then say, look, I bought you something. You should be happy. You should be grateful for everything in life. In all seriousness though, yeah, I think the quicker you can get out of that house, the better. It sounds like your granddad is just as entitled as your grandma, if I'm being honest. Now guys, before we end today's video, I do just want to tell you a bit more about the campaign behind my new face mask that you can see on screen right now. Mask Match is an awesome scheme that means that if you purchase one of my face masks, another reusable mask will be donated completely free to a medical worker. Just think how amazing that is. That means that by buying a mask, you are keeping yourself safe, people people around you safe, and people that are working to save lives safe as well. Additionally, if you perhaps don't have the money to buy my mask, or you already have a great one yourself, you can still get involved and help out. Perhaps you have some spare masks lying around, but don't worry, if you do have masks you want to donate, simply go to maskmatch.com to sign up and support the cause. Overall guys, this is an amazing scheme that we can all get behind and really do something positive for the first time really as a community on my channel. I've not really had a chance to do something like this before, so it would be amazing if we could all get behind it and just do something special. Anyway guys, that is going to do it for this episode of Entitled Parents. Remember to click the link, hopefully it'll be on screen right now. Go and check out the face mask. All profit goes to charity. It's a pretty great cause, so yeah, if you need one, go and check it out. Also, let me know what you think of the design. We could put it on a hoodie, a t-shirt later on, but for now it's just on the face mask. I'm really happy with it. Let me know what you think.